Even walking in the room, he looks 10 times better than last week.
Yeah.
When he was like pulling all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's already a huge change just to see him kind of calmly come in.
Yeah.
So I'm already happy with his week 1 progress.
I feel like, you know where this would look cool? The short gate when you first walk into the facility. You know? So you open the gate, go in. Kind of like it. What's up, vlog? It's a rainy, cold, crappy Tuesday afternoon here in Cleveland. Pretty much all my lessons canceled. I was only supposed to have 3 lessons today, 2 of which canceled on me. So we're cruising with these board and trains. We just finished all the first sessions with them. We're doing Home Depot trips with all the dogs since the weather's a little crappy today. I actually am leaving town here Thursday morning for a little bit, so it's my job to make sure these guys are in tip-top shape before I leave so that our other trainers can take over and seamlessly kind of move into things. And basically what that looks like is, you know, if there's any kind of loose ends as far as like new things that we've been working on that are like getting there but not quite fully established, it's my job to make sure those things are as established as possible so people can jump in and start just using that training as opposed to need to jump in and kind of figure out exactly where we left off with something and then kind of make adjustments and stuff from there as we need to. So that's what I've been doing today, is we're just cruising through lots of sessions, letting these dogs be successful, letting them go through the motions with things. And again, I'm really spending a lot of time proofing distractions today. So we did some Edgewater trips yesterday with the dogs. We're doing Home Depot today, and then we'll have checked the box basically that the public access stuff looks pretty good, right? So distractions out in public are not too difficult for the dogs. So we can continue just with the teaching process of things. Socialization is going to be something else we're going to get into with all these dogs once we finish these Home Depot trips. And all these dogs have not been here that long. They've only been here for about a week, and you know, frankly, all of them are moving along very, very well with things. So that's kind of what we're focused on today. Like I said, we got a 6 o'clock lesson then that we'll be getting into, and I believe we have a new board and train actually getting dropped off this afternoon because I have one going home tomorrow. So that's what we got cruising.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Bennet. Even walking in the room, he looks 10 times better than last week.
Yeah.
When he was like pulling all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's already a huge change just to see him kind of calmly come in.
Yeah.
So I'm already happy with his week 1 progress. So you were just mentioning like getting on walks, a little bit distracted with what's going on behind him, not totally focused.
Yeah, so we try to give like a little bit of a correction, kind of zone him back
Yeah.
in. Just like it's.
He's like,
paranoid,
oh
just,
God.
I know someone's behind me and I want to
Yeah.
look at him.
Sure.
But again, I think just not trying to be too harsh on him, but
Yeah.
kind of make it a gradual
Yeah.
situation.
Okay. Yeah, so the prong went well, like how have your like sits gone and things like that?
Good.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gone well. Didn't use the harness at all, just strictly the prong leash.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi buddy.
You guys sit?
Oh, what a good boy. It's like, all right, well, we're done with training now. All right, I think today we're gonna start the e-collar,
Okay.
just to start to introduce it with training, so like sitting, and we're gonna use it for some beds today as well, possibly going on a little bit of a walk and just take a look at his walk.
Okay.
We're gonna be using continuous pressure today for the sits, very similar to the prong, where he's gonna feel that pressure until he gets into the desired command, and then he's learning kind of that pressure and release. As far as like in the apartment, does he have any really naughty behaviors, like if you could change right now that you would start working on?
With food, he's from here. He's not food driven.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
home he is. So when we do dinner, like he doesn't come to me, but he'll go to her, and if she's sitting on the couch eating, he'll like put his paws up and
Yeah.
just stare right at her. But he'll come
Yeah.
to me, and I'll be like, no, and he goes right back to her.
And he's like,
so it's kind of like telling him down on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
couch for
sure,
food time.
yeah,
Other than that, we talked about kind of the jumping thing, so we kind of worked on that. As like,
Sure.
almost like it's something in the back of our minds of
Okay.
down, down, down.
okay,
But those are only he doesn't counter surf or anything like that. He's pretty good about that.
okay,
But those are probably the only things in terms of probably her annoyance is like he constantly wants to put his feet up on the couch and just like
Okay.
stare right into her face as she's trying to eat.
okay, yeah, yeah, so definitely what we all want when we eat is hot lab breath on us, so this week, we're gonna be teaching the e-collar today as a teaching tool, so I'll show you how to use it.
Okay.
But aside from that, we have things called behavioral corrections, which we're gonna be start implementing when you see the paws go on the couch.
Okay.
So something very clear, we're only gonna pick like 1 or 2 things to start correcting for behaviorally this week. So that means you're sitting down, set up the situation, don't try to get him to avoid it. The second the paws go on the couch to see like, oh, what's mom eating? I want you to tell him no, and you're gonna press the button just once.
Okay.
And it's just like a quick tap of the button, like you're pressing the button of a remote, changing a channel. And we'll find his working level today, so I can give you a ballpark range, but unfortunately levels fluctuate so much, so some days he could be lower, some days he could be higher. My goal with correcting is making sure that he has a response to it. So it's like Goldilocks and the 3 bears, like I'll correct him and I'll say, was that too high, too low, or just right?
Okay.
My just right would look like it stopped the behavior, and he is not doing it anymore, and he kind of got the message, because he's associating, I put pause on mom, I get told no, and I feel that correction.
Okay.
So then he stops that. If it's too low, he may try to jump again, because if he's just like, I want that chicken bad enough that correction didn't feel bad at all. So that would indicate to me it was a little too low for him to perceive it as something negative. And too high would be like he shoots up into the air and just jumps out of his skin, which we want to get away with using a bit lower level for those corrections, but you'll go as high as you need to go.
Okay.
Big tip I can always give you is that people really get stuck on numbers. So some people are like, what level did you correct him on? I'm like 60, and they're like, oh my God, I've never gone above a 12 with him.
Okay.
So just be conscious that it's never about the number, and it's impossible to hurt him on it. Like physically long-lasting pain, it's a quick second of discomfort that we're just trying to communicate. Not correcting because we're angry at him, not correcting because we're frustrated. We're just kind of making a point here. And we'll go over all of that, introduce you kind of slowly into the e-collar.
Okay.
And today I'm just going to set this speaker up so you can start to, like, audio, hear when I'm giving the correction. It can make it a little bit easier to know when I'm correcting and when I'm applying that pressure. There we go. Come on, bud. And we're just going to start like we did last week with the basics, so no e-collar just yet. And I'm going to just get him walking and focused with me. Come on, bud. I'm just trying to warm him up, essentially, get him kind of prepped for working with me. Oh, good work. Good job, buddy. Have you felt like the prong has been easier to use in the harness? Like you feeling like the pulling is a big reduction?
Yes.
Sit. Good boy. And the way we're going to start implementing it is I'm going to ask him to sit, sit. And if he does it, obviously no prong pressure, no e-collar pressure because he's done it. I'm just gonna park him here for a few minutes and see if he breaks so I can show you an example of how we're gonna apply both pressure. I instantly kind of just go hold my button down, and then I use the prong to get him back into place if he gets confused, rather than feeling like I have to like untangle the leash and go back up. You're just not gonna even show us a mistake, are you? Okay? Sit. Good. And we're on about a 6 right now, so I'm just gonna gauge when we do use it. Is the 6 effective? Is he feeling it? With continuous pressure in the teaching phase, we're always gonna go a little bit lower. For behavioral things, we're gonna wanna go higher because we wanna eradicate that behavior immediately. We don't wanna play around with like, was that too high, too low? Okay. Good job, bud. Sit. Good. He's like, this is the easy stuff. Good. So just as his butt popped up, I instantly just started the stim, which is just kind of like a little annoying feeling. It's not painful. And then I added that prong pressure. So he's understanding the same concept with the e-collar. It's pressure and release. When my butt gets on the ground, I feel no pressure. I'm in position. Okay? Good job, buddy. Come here. Come here. Come on. Sit. Good. And I won't get crazy, like I'm not gonna drop my leash with my motion, but kind of just starting to move and have him stabilize in a command is really good to gain focus and practice his patience a little bit. So he's looking at us to release. Good. And at this stage, I'm not marking with the word NO, and I'm not just saying sit again. I'm just kind of applying that pressure. So we're talking to him non-verbally. Good job. Good. Do you want to try a different one? He said, no. Don't give me that. Okay? Come on, bud. Sit. Good. And it's always kind of in the movement of us moving around that he gets tripped up and he's like, wait, do you want me to move with you? So when I'm doing this, I'm trying not to add tension into my leash so I'm not accidentally inviting him to come over to me. And if I'm really struggling with him, keep getting up, I'll hold a little bit closer. Good. Okay. Good job, buddy. Sit. Good. And it's okay that he takes his time to get into the position. I want to allow him time to process the command that I've given. I won't wait too long, like if I ask him to sit and he's like sniffing or going off to try to eat something, then I'll apply the pressure. But giving him that little extra time to process and think about the command, and just waiting a moment can be really key to kind of building that confidence in training. Where he's like, wait, you want me to do something? And he's got to kind of work it out himself. Big burp. The purpose of us adding a little bit of duration into a command is it's a huge building block and as we further our training, because we'll be asking him to sit or on a bed or in a sit as a stationary command long term. So we're just starting to get him to understand staying in a command even if other things are going on. Just the very basic concept of like waiting a second until he gets released. Perfect. And you're doing a good job of releasing him too. I forgot to mention that when we release with that okay, we always want to go back into his space. So he's not starting to cue that our movement means get up. So sometimes if we release from that distance, he's starting to pattern in, if we step back, we're going to release him. So I always go back to him and kind of go back to his base, pause for a moment and release him.
Sit. Okay.
Perfect. Any questions so far now that you've experienced the e-collar? Been any questions on the functions? Okay, yeah, it looks really good. I continue to practice at home. When we start to face challenges with our dogs and we're noticing like, oh, that was really hard for him, it makes me want to work through it. So although he kept getting up, like for me, he sat down and he's like, I don't really know this lady, I'm gonna listen to her. But he's more comfortable with both of you. So when we face challenges or we start to see a challenge in dog training, we definitely want to say, how can I work through this and see success in it? So I'm always trying to end the session with success. So let's say you've done a couple reps and he keeps getting up, just try to stay patient and calm and work him through it until you're saying one good rep of success. And if you need to come back to it later, then come back to it after you've achieved some success. If we end on like a bad note, then he could feel like, oh, I got away with that last time. So I'm not trying to physically restrain him once he gets on the bed, but I want to give him that kind of loose leash so he can make the decision to get off. And then I just apply that same pressure like we did with our sits when he gets off. So he's starting to learn. I'm going to feel pressure until I get on this bed. And a lot of dogs do this like step over and they're like, wait, what? God. So loose leash here. And then I'm just waiting. Okay. So same concept, get on the bed and then release with that okay. Come on, bud. See if we can get you to do this a little smoother. Almost on. Good. Back your booty up a little. Good. Good job. It's a little awkward at first, like directing him on, but I think at home when you start to apply this, you're gonna have a lot easier of a time.
Do you associate
Good.
that with anything? Do you say like bed or?
At this stage, until like we have a saying in dog training, like don't name it till you love it. So until he's doing it really smoothly, I don't want to name it anything because I don't want it to have this like association that's negative for him. I want to wait until he's doing it really smoothly before I say anything. Come on, bud. Good. Good job. Okay. And I want to stay as patient as I can in the learning phase or the teaching phases of things. Come on, bud. Good. It's stressful for dogs to kind of learn new things. And if we're kind of even-tempered and helping them work through it, we're kind of coaching them to what we want them to do rather than like feeling frustrated with them or shouting at them. So it's just important to remain patient, work through challenges that you see with him. Good. Look at you. Okay?
What does he see it right now as you're trying to put him on? Like, is he seeing it like a punishment area, or what is he kind of seeing the obstacle as?
It's just like uncertainty. So the reservations you see, he's like, what do I do? He's just like, he's never really done it in this way before. So he's uncertain what I'm asking of him. So I'm gonna just do a lot of reps of this. So he's understanding that pressure is released once he gets on the bed. So when he feels that pressure, similarly to when we were doing the sits, he's like, I have to do something. This pressure means to do something. So we're just trying to pattern in having him get on and off very smoothly. And once I can check the box, oh, he's going on with barely any pressure, then I can name the command and get him to do it. I could use treats and be like, this is fun, this is great. But he's not viewing it as a punishment area, nor do we use the bed as a punishment. It's just a place that we're being like, hey, go chill out over there while I cook dinner. Long-term goal would be to put him on a bed and be able to answer the door and have guests come in and he's still parked on his bed really helps with stability in the house and the mindset of not having to go pace or find food or get a toy. It's just like, it's kind of like a meditation command almost. You're like, hey, go chill out for a little bit. Okay? For this week, practice the sits in the bed with the e-collar, starting to get him used to that pressure. You can go home tonight and try, or when you do go to try, start at a 6, gauge how he's feeling. If it feels like nothing's happening, then you can go up a little bit. For continuous pressure, again, we stay a little bit lower in the teaching phases, but for behavioral things, like when he went to go jump on you, I corrected him at 15, and it wasn't like super, he didn't care about it a lot. So when he goes to jump, you could pick jumping for this week, and maybe next week we'll tackle barking. On his harness, he's like, I want to go wherever I want. And this week he's like, I'm actually a good boy now.
Yeah, we have the family group chat. One update, like, what was Ben doing this week? Strictly boundaries,
Yeah,
just restructuring his life.
yeah. And we'll work on the jump in this week. I think you should see a big improvement once we start. So no more exploring mom's dinner, right, sir?
It's only me.
I wish.
They come to me.
Yeah.
I'm softy.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that they kind of know what they can get away with who?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I never tried to do that.
So should we leave the prong and the leash on with the e-collar at home?
I would leave when you're in active training. So when you're gonna say, okay, we're gonna work on sits for 10 minutes, put everything on him and start to utilize both as you need them. And then in the house, let's say, you can have trigger points of when you absolutely know that gets him to jump. So maybe when you come home from work, or one of you comes in the door.
Whenever I come home from work.
Yeah, and he's just like, Mom, I haven't seen you all day. So it's important to kind of come in and initially ignore him so we're not feeding into a lot of excitement. But then, not that we're setting him up to fail, but essentially we're setting him up to fail because we want him to start to learn that he can't jump. So leaving it on when you come in the door. If one of you gets home first, you can kind of put him to the test. But the e-collar can be off when he's not in active training. He doesn't have to sleep with it on. If you know you're having guests over, put it on him.
So should we leave the prong collar on?
You don't have to. So now that we have the e-collar, we won't be using the e-collar to correct him anymore. We're not gonna use the prong to correct him. We're gonna use the e-collar.
Okay.
So he does not have to have the prong on for the jumping anymore because we're going to take care of it in a different way, yes. But for active training, like obedience, we're gonna still use both. And again, the training wheels, eventually, we want to come off of the prong entirely. Obviously, like when he got that bigger correction, he was just like, oh crap. But obviously, we're going to continue to work him through and build his confidence so he learns how to take the correction and is not so like beside himself.
What would you recommend, because like when we are getting ready for bed and we take the prong off,
Mm-hmm.
he, like, is
Zoomies,
psycho.
yeah, because he knows he's like, I don't have to listen
Yeah.
anymore. So a creative way to start to problem solve some of these things, again, when we start to realize issues, we're gonna kind of put our thinking caps on, being like, how could we solve this? So leave the e-collar on and set up the scenario where you're taking off the prong.
Okay.
The second he's performing, like zoomies is not the worst thing in the world, but you can try to isolate one thing he's doing with the zoomies, with whether that is jumping on furniture
Yep.
or you, and start getting on him.
He takes our shoes
Yeah.
when he has the zoomies.
He's like, I am so excited.
Yeah.
So when he goes to pick up your shoe, you can mark with no and give him a correction. And then you can take the e-collar off when you feel like the state of mind's a little bit settled. You might run into the same issue though, so it's okay to leave the collar on overnight if you absolutely needed to.
Okay.
If you're like, I'm absolutely not dealing with
It's
this.
like he'll go for like 2 minutes and then
I'm out and I'm